Hello, my name is Ashley Robinson, and this is my research project titled What Really Happened at the Premiere of The Rite of Spring. So my thesis statement is, because of previous Ballet Russe productions and societal differences, Igor Stravinsky's composition of The Rite of Spring was not responsible for the riots that happened at the premiere. So just to talk about Igor Stravinsky for just a minute, he was born in St. Petersburg, Russia, and took a liking to music at a young age where he learned how to play the piano at 9. And he was restricted from learning music seriously until his father passed away when Igor Stravinsky was 20 years old. After this point, he worked with Rimsky-Korsakov and then went on to join the Ballet Russes and work with Sergei Diaghilev and create Firebird and Petrushka, while also working with Nijinsky, Picasso, and Debussy. So the Rite of Spring was composed by Stravinsky, and it was meant to be very primitive sound based on some Lithuanian folk songs he had heard in his life, according to Peter Hill in the documentary Discovering Masterpieces of Classical Music, Stravinsky.
The first melody in the Rite of Spring, Stravinsky always admitted was in fact a folk song that came from this collection of Lithuanian folk songs. The original folk song in the collection sounds like this. And this becomes and so on. The bassoon solo at the very beginning of the Rite of Spring.
And with that bassoon added into the heavy drums that come in afterwards, fit perfectly with the avant-garde style of Nijinsky's choreography. So the Rite of Spring, while it was musically influenced by Lithuanian folk songs, there is no specific Russian folk story that it is based off of. Rather, Stravinsky used his imagination to develop a story on a village choosing a virgin sacrifice to appease the gods in spring and have the virgin dance to her death. But the reason Stravinsky did this was because he was trying to get out from under the hold of Romanticism. He didn't want to be doing the happy love stories that he'd been doing before. And of course, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but music analysts in the 80s didn't enjoy the fact that he had the sacrifice in his story because it didn't fit traditional Russian folklore and felt it was unnecessary. But I say nay, it's very necessary. So now we get to the Rite of Spring premiere. The Rite of Spring was performed in the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées just 2 months after it was finished being built, and this was exciting for the Parisians because it was a very new, special theater, as well as being a Stravinsky-Nijinsky production. They were excited. So the audience was a mixture of upper class and lower class Parisians that may have already had predispositions to rebel against this production, but not Stravinsky, against Nijinsky. And this is, I found this in an article by Hewitt titled, Did the Rite of Spring Really Spark a Riot? This is based on Nijinsky's work with Debussy called Jeux that was performed 2 weeks before the premiere of the Rite of Spring, and it didn't go over very well. They were very unhappy with the production. So it's unclear if the first note of the bassoon was what caused the riots, or if it was the dancing style. But either way, it was chaotic. People were screaming and yelling. Supposedly chairs were being thrown. Nijinsky was standing on a chair backstage, and Stravinsky was holding his coattails to keep him from falling down. Diaghilev was turning on and off the lights to try and calm people down. It just sounds like it was an absolute madhouse. But one of these reasons for this outrage could have been that people were used to the beautiful music of the Ballet Russe previous ballets, that they were not too thrilled about having paid to see something so primitive in nature. And it's also said by the You Discover team that the conductor, Pierre Montu, thought the riot was mainly because of the two different classes that were in the audience. They already had issues with each other, and it just got worse in the theater. There was also speculation of audience members making animal noises, and that, of course, outraged other audience members. But according to the You Discover team, they believe that there were 40 people arrested when it was all said and done. So 27 people were injured after the premiere. Thankfully, no one died, so that's good. but everyone that was involved in the production was affected by this. Paraphrasing from the documentary Discovering Masterpieces, they said the premiere night was not only upsetting to the audience, but to Stravinsky as well. Because of the poor reception that night, he preferred his composition be used in a concert form over stage productions. But they did take the Rite of Spring to London, and Stravinsky was quoted as saying, "I think the English are amazingly intelligent, not that they plumed themselves on it, but in their quiet, dignified way, very little escapes their notice." He felt that the audience of London was a lot more receptive to the story and everything behind the Rite of Spring. So to conclude, the musical composition put forth by Igor Stravinsky was not responsible for the audience breaking out into a riot. Rather, it was the differences in social classes in the audience, as well as some jaded audience members from previous ballets. And some future research paths from this point, because Igor Stravinsky didn't want his music being used on stage anymore, and he wanted it to be more concert. He was also around during the growing development of technology and the growth of animation, leading to his connection with Walt Disney, because Walt Disney loved Stravinsky's pieces and wanted to use it. So they worked together, and as you can see, Stravinsky was very involved with the storyboards and figuring everything out to make sure that it all fit. But I wonder if he actually appreciated what was put forth, if he actually enjoyed what they had made, or if he just went along with it because he didn't understand animation and didn't understand what this crazy technological guy was talking about. So it makes me wonder, and it's something I'm going to look into, on if he was actually happy with the changes that were made, because Disney did make some changes. In the 1987 production, you see the dancers with the bear, but then in the Fantasia, it is dinosaurs, but you can still see some similarities, but you can hear the differences. So the similarity I'm talking about is that tar pit. You have the sacrificial dinosaurs being circled by the bears. So it was faster and different tempoed. So I would like to know if Stravinsky was okay with that or if he had reservations about it. But these are my references from this project. And these are my image references for this project. Thank you for watching my presentation.